Good evening and welcome to our honorable guest, His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum, Vice President and Prime Minister of the United Arab Emirates and ruler of Dubai. His Highness the Aga Khan, Your Highnesses, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. I would like now to invite His Highness the Aga Khan to the podium to deliver his address on the occasion of the 2016 Aga Khan Award for Architecture.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Your Highness, Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum, Vice President and Prime Minister of the UAE and ruler of Dubai, Your Highnesses, Excellencies, distinguished guests, Assalamu alaikum. It is a genuine pleasure to welcome you to the 2016 ceremony of the Aga Khan Award for Architecture. As you may suspect, I have the privilege of attending many wonderful ceremonies as I carry out my responsibilities. But this architectural award ceremony is one of those that I look forward to with a special sense of anticipation. Perhaps that is partly because it happens only once every 3 years. There is more time for the anticipation to build up. But there is a much more important reason. Architecture is the only art form which has a direct daily impact on the quality of human life. Again this year, the award shines a spotlight on 6 architectural masterpieces, calling attention to them not only within the professional community, but with the global public as well. In doing so, we believe the award can help instruct and inspire those who will shape the future of global architecture. The award seeks to guide and inspire better building in the future. At the same time, of course, the award ceremony gives us a welcome opportunity to look back. The purpose of the award when it was first launched was to help renew one of the world's great cultural legacies, the rich traditions of Islamic architecture. Those traditions were being lost, we feared, amid a rush of modernizing, westernizing enthusiasms, depriving people everywhere of the insights, the institutions, the idioms of some of the richest cultures in world history. There was a genuine sense of urgency about the effort to reclaim that precious heritage. How appropriate it is that we meet this evening at this magnificent fort, a beautiful example in its own right of thoughtful historic preservation. As we gather in this special place and for this special purpose, we hope to remind people everywhere, of all backgrounds and identities, of a powerful lesson, the way in which a thoughtful concern for the built environment can characterize an entire civilization. When I speak of a thoughtful concern for the built environment, I think of several qualities which the award seeks to honor and to promote. Let me mention just 4 of them. I think first of how great architecture can integrate the past and the future, inherited tradition and changing needs. We need not choose between looking back and looking forward. They are not competing choices, but healthy complements. We can learn valuable lessons from history without getting lost in history. We can look boldly ahead without ignoring what has gone before. Secondly, Architectural excellence can integrate the gifts of nature and the potentials of the human mind. Natural blessings and human creativity are divine gifts, and it is wrong to embrace one at the expense of the other. The best architecture teaches us to engage with nature respectfully, not by conquering or subduing it, nor by isolating ourselves away from it. Our host country, the United Arab Emirates, itself offers an impressive example of integrating well the natural and the human environments. A third quality we see in the projects we honor tonight is the balance between aesthetic inspiration and practical utility. Throughout history, the challenges of change have been central to the architectural mission. But today, the pace of change has been accelerating so fast that it sometimes seems overwhelming. Technological changes have revolutionized our lives in communication and travel, industry and agriculture, medicine and education. Natural changes, including global warming, also present central challenges. In a globalized world, dangerous threats can circulate more widely and quickly. Weapons and pollution, drugs and crime, disease and terrorism, poverty and violence. One result has been an unprecedented increase in the migration of displaced peoples. Some of these problems directly challenge the architectural world. At a time when old ties of community seem to erode, a sense of discipline and personal responsibility can also be diluted. In such contexts, we hear more about professional incompetence, deteriorating engineering and building standards, and even dishonest contracting practices. All of these realities, technological, economic, social, and ethical, present important challenges for responsible architecture. The projects we honor tonight have addressed such challenges, each engaging with the particular demands of its own time and place, while expressing the important values of cultural continuity. A fourth major value that the Award for Architecture seeks to highlight is the spirit of pluralism, an approach to life that welcomes difference and diversity, one that embraces diversity itself as a gift of the Creator, honoring cultural differences as the valued legacies of our predecessors. The spirit of pluralism has been central to the great achievements of past Islamic cultures, and it remains a central principle of these awards. One of the questions we addressed 4 decades ago was how the selection process for the award could best reflect the pluralism of peoples and their habitats. One response was to set up a 3-year selection cycle, a schedule that would encourage wide-ranging discussion among a diversified array of participants. Through the years, they have included architects, philosophers, artists, and historians from diverse faiths, cultures, and places, people of different generations and genders. And I'm happy to underline that 3 of the awardees this year are women architects. We have drawn upon governmental and foundation friends, urban planners and village leaders, educators and researchers, engineers and financiers, and builders large and small. To all who have contributed their time and talents to the award process over the past 3 years, and down through all the years, we extend our deepest appreciation. The spirit of the award has been an inclusive one, valuing all manner of buildings and spaces, from skyscrapers to mud huts, from residences to work and gathering spaces, from reforestation and financing projects to cemeteries, bridges, and parks, from the accomplishments of signature architects to those of anonymous craftsmen. This pluralistic approach may not echo the usual definition of the word architecture, but it is the closest we can get to the central inclusive message we want this award to convey. The jury again this year has explored projects that extend the boundaries of the architectural discipline, recognizing that new knowledge sometimes emerges in the lines between old categories. In doing so, they have acknowledged how the architectural endeavor can provide stages on which the tensions of our time can be choreographed and negotiated, bridging, for example, the gap between the cosmopolitan and the local. Great architecture can remind us that pluralism begins with difference, and that it does not require us to leave behind our cherished identities. That is why pluralism, the fourth of the qualities I have discussed, is so important to the architectural mission. These 4 qualities, I would submit, are worth bearing in mind as we mark the 13th presentation of the Aga Khan Award for Architecture. The integration of the past and the future, the harmony of nature and humanity, the adaptation of unprecedented challenges, and the dedication to pluralistic ideals. The 6 architectural projects we celebrate this evening reaffirm the award's founding principles, even as they help us project those principles into the program's 5th decade. The Holy Quran commands humankind to shape our earthly environment as good stewards of the divine creation. In that spirit, in moments both of elation and disappointment, we hope that the Aga Khan Award for Architecture will always point towards an architecture of optimism and harmony, a powerful force in elevating the quality of human life. Thank you.
It is about technology, it is about the edge, it is about progress, and it is about the environment.
What was a surprise for me was the breadth of both the kind of competition entry rules, but also the breadth of entrance.
In 1977, when His Highness the Aga Khan created the Aga Khan Award for Architecture, his aim was to identify architecture worth emulating. Implicit in that objective was the notion that architecture should be of service to users and inhabitants, and that it should positively affect the quality of life. 4 decades later, the award is one of the most prestigious and coveted in the world.
Every award is special, but this one is very, very special. Because it's such a prestigious award, and it's in every sense a very discriminating. So I think it's enormously respected. It's not an easy award to win, and you can see that by looking at the track record of the program.
C'est un prix qui montre que tous les endroits où les hommes vivent doivent être respectés, doivent être traités de façon noble, et qu'il ne faudrait pas oublier les conditions de vie des gens qui sont dans la difficulté actuellement. Donc je trouve tout à fait remarquable qu'on puisse effectivement souligner une action intéressante.
Every 3 years, a steering committee chaired by His Highness the Aga Khan highlights the major concerns of architectural discourse. The independent master jury, composed of leading architects, planners, philosophers, academics and others, examines the nominated projects. This year, for the 13th cycle of the award, the jury shortlisted 19 candidates out of 348 entries. They were selected both for the quality of designs and the positive impact on communities.
It's very much broader, I realized very soon, in fact in the first meeting, than just architecture. There's an interest in political and cultural and social pluralism. So I found very early on in these conversations that being a philosopher was not completely out of place.
But what distinguishes the Aga Khan Award for Architecture from other prizes is the on-site evaluation of the projects by experts, including architects and structural engineers.
When the reviewers come with lots of ideas, lots of views, you feel yourself more comfortable as a juror, and this was very important, and we saw that we could do some mistakes without this process.
This year, 6 candidates out of 19 clinched the award. The Tabiat Bridge in Tehran, designed by young architects Leyla Arigyan and Alireza Bezadi, is the largest pedestrian bridge built in Iran. 270 meters long, it crosses a major highway and connects 2 parks.
There are so many cities like Tehran that they are very much car-oriented. There are highways that are cutting through all the neighborhoods and ruining the whole texture of the city, and the pedestrians are always the victims. I think we do need more and more spaces that are giving respect and good quality space that everyone can enjoy regardless of their income, regardless of their social class, regardless of anything.
دیگه ما به پل بودنش فکر نمی‌کردیم. قرار بود پل جایی برای موندن باشه. قرار بود مردم بیان بشینن، معاشرت کنن، فضاهایی رو ببینن. واسه همین دیگه برای ما یه فضای شهری بود.
It's such a social success, you know, the fact that it connects 2 parks, which are separated by a highway, and has become not the bridge to cross from one place to the other, but a place to go, a place to be in.
The Bait-ul-Rauf Mosque in Dhaka, designed by Marina Tabassum, was commissioned by her grandmother in commemoration of her daughters.
I've always wanted to not to have an architecture which is entirely new, but to create I would say, a continuity from the past or history. We have a rich legacy of Sultanate period mosques, which are really beautiful mosques. So I took my inspirations from that. And then also looking into local materials, climate, generally the things that I myself is always trying to propagate through my architecture.
I think the mosque is a jewel in the way the light plays in it, in the way the work of the brick, the skillfulness in the brick, but also in the design. It's a very progressive mosque in the sense that it does not have the traditional elements of a dome or of a minaret.
The micro-UNR, designed by Zhang Kei, has given a new lease of life to the endangered Chae Hutong in Beijing. Instead of demolishing it, the historic neighborhood was redesigned and preserved by creating a cultural and communal space.
Our idea is, is it possible by redesign, reuse, repair and renovate these structures to recognize, so that these could be also interesting layers of contemporary life, history of the city.
Donc ça, je trouve ça très intéressant. C'est une leçon pour dire, voilà, nous avons un héritage et nous avons des réponses et des solutions pour le préserver, tout en le transformant et en accueillant des usages évidemment contemporains et modernes.
Superkillen, an urban park in a multicultural and tense neighbourhood in Copenhagen, is a fusion between architecture, landscape and art. The objects in the park were chosen with the help of the inhabitants.
You have more than 60 different nationalities living here, so we thought we should find a way to allow the locals to feel that this is really an expression of their neighborhood, of their culture. Superkillen is almost like an architecture of inclusion. If you say yes to many different ideas, many different cultures, you actually get a richer environment.
For me, this really brought the Islamic world into the center of everyone's world in a way. So I think as a political statement, it was a very strong piece, but also as a piece of collaborative architecture. It's not exactly urban space, it's not landscape, it's not straightforward architecture. I think this was a very interesting collaboration.
The Friendship Centre, designed by Kashif Chowdhury, is a training facility for the NGO Friendship, which works in rural areas of Bangladesh. Chowdhury drew his inspiration from the nearby Buddhist monastery of Mahastan.
The most guiding inspiration was the ruins of Buddhist monasteries and settlements from the 3rd century BC onwards. In Mahastan, for example, you see the similar kind of handmade bricks. These are beautiful materials. It has the imperfections that give it the texture that it does. And it was very important for me to relate to 3,000 years of history and archaeology.
The main part of the building is actually not visible from the street, it's sunken. But in many ways it creates a beautiful set of indoor-outdoor rooms, combining light and shadow that provides a variety of spaces for use as this training center.
And finally, the Issam Fares Institute in the American University of Beirut. Designed by a world-renowned architect, the late Zaha Hadid, for her alma mater.
Her death adds a poignancy to it, but nothing more than that. The building has a message in its juxtaposition of traditional turn-of-the-century architecture of a colonial kind in Beirut at the AUB. It juxtaposes a modern building which is as much a part of the international vision of modernism as it is of one Arab woman's fight for self-expression.
Well, Zaha was a wonderful creative personality with an enormous imagination. So it's always been a selection process from an initial proliferation of ideas. And that gives each project a very good chance to find something new and fitting and congenial to conditions, site and purpose.
Since 1977, the Aga Khan Award for Architecture has reviewed over 9,000 projects and rewarded 116. Each project that is nominated competes for a share of the $1 million prize. But the prize also bestows something that may be even more important: recognition that talented people have succeeded in building a better future.
There is nothing more important than telling somebody what you're doing is good and go ahead and we recognize you. And the Aga Khan, it's a worldwide recognition.
I kindly invite His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum, Vice President and Prime Minister of the United Arab Emirates and ruler of Dubai, and His Highness the Aga Khan to deliver to the winners their certificates.